traps, and so now it's like anything I do with my left arm is just ah. But I'll fight on for the cause, for the panel. I won't let you all down. But I might cry a little bit, so please be nice. Anyway, all right. Gonna give everyone a second to. Actually, we even beat the clock. We're live before 8, so we're pogging. We are absolutely crushing it right
I
now.
thought the debate started at 8, not the live stream.
Oh, hey, both can start at 8. All right.
Oh, okay.
Because Maddie said, "Oh, hey, I'll be there on at 8." All right, Maddie. It's you got 30 seconds.
I mean, all I gotta say is the righties were here first.
True. All these leftists just can't get here on time. Like, no respect for schedule or any of that. What y'all?
That's why they can't have jobs. That's why they stream on Twitch so much.
Hey, I mean, Twitch streaming is a job if you can make it one. You know, look at like the levels of creativity and artistry. What you drinking, Sprout? Whiskey?
Yes, I'm drinking Ensign Red, peach whiskey.
Oh, I love peach whiskey. Nice.
So.
Hell yeah, I'm not gonna drink. I mean, I might drink a little bit, but like we're gonna give it a bit first. Want to give my body like a tiny bit of rest before I destroy it. I drank way too much last night, but it did make me better at night. Oh, there's a cat, and you even have a chair for it. It's so cute. It's like his little buddy. But oh my god, I'm sorry. I love animals, both to like pet and to eat. You know, just make all the vegans mad at me. I'm trying, okay? I do meatless Mondays every now and then. All right, I'm doing my best.
Wait,
Oh.
is Meatless Mondays like kind of like the same argument as like, well, I have a black friend, I can't be racist. Like, I don't hate animals, I do Meatless Mondays.
It's like it's more like like the way the way Kyo-san described it to me is that even if you don't like say get rid of like all of your meat intake, it's still better to do that than to not do it. And then also it makes it easier to fully transition, right? Because like if I went from eating like like chicken every day to like just eating soy, my body would probably like have some kind of like adverse reaction, not like or just like my digestive system like wouldn't be like ready for it. So like if I like slowly switch over, I'm trying to like find like tofu and stuff like around my town. I live in like a tiny like a like conservative area, so like tofu isn't like super hard to like super easy to come by. I'm like doing my best, and eventually that means like once I have like more control over my diet, have more like time to dedicate for that sort of thing. Hopefully, I can keep moving like towards it because I agree with like the tenets of veganism. I just like personally am a failure, and I can't do all of them right now because I'm just a loser and I got gains to worry about. All right.
You're speciesist. Got it.
I'm absolutely. I'm absolutely. I'm absolutely speciesist. Humans over animals any day of the week. I think human beings.
And I like as someone and my diet's predominantly vegan unless I kill it. Like fuck, I don't care. Do what you do and makes your body feel good. I'm not going to impose my things on you because I'm not a Christian conservative terrorist or a Sunni Islamic fundamentalist terrorist group. So do what makes you do better as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Animals are lower on the food chain. This is how it is. Fucking suck it up, Buttercup. Beer is delicious.
Those are not the arguments I would use, but I still appreciate your candor. Anyway, good googly moogly. All right, so we are live. I mean, we've been live. Where's Maddie at? She said that she would be here at 8, and it is 8, and she is not here.
She's on California time. You have to allow 15 minutes for traffic.
Oh my god. Fucking some of these people. Good lord. All right.
Spectre's not wrong.
I'm just saying
I lived in LA for 5 years or something. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying if you just tried harder, maybe it would be easier, but
just
that's
move.
just move. 5 head, like what are you even doing? Anyway, all right. So for all the people that are here, because you're all awesome, thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this awesome drug policy panel. Before we get into the rules of the debate and stuff, we're just going to go around really quick, let everyone introduce themselves and chill out their stuff. And let's get started with that. So, Jolah, go ahead, buddy.
Hello, my name is Jolah. I do progressive commentary. I'm from rural America, so I try to give a little bit of a rural perspective on things. And that's all I do. Thank you for having me again, Hans.
Thank you for being here. Spectre?
Yeah, hey, I'm Spectre. I help Hans with behind the scenes stuff and a couple of other streamers every now and then. I'm on Twitter firing off hot takes. That's pretty much where you can find me these days. And yeah, I'm a lefty. Glad to be here.
Thank you. All right, Asian?
Hey guys, I'm Agent or Joseph, whichever one's easier.
Oh, wait, 1 sec.
Mute yourself on the Werebee before I have an aneurysm.
I was. Oh, there we go. All right, try again. I believe in you.
There we go. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm Joseph or Agent, whichever one's easier. Moderate rightoid from Jersey. I'm a theater kid, college student. Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. All right, Sprout. Oh, Sprout, you're mute. Wait, what? 1 second. We can't hear you on Discord. All right. Okay. I still when's the oh there you go. Yeah, I got you. I got you. I got you. All right. All right, try that again.
Testing. Can you
Hell
hear me?
yeah. Bro, yep, we got you. We got you.
My name is The Sprouticus. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter. Same handle. It is The Sprouticus. I am a constitutionalist conservative. So I'm looking forward to talking through these issues and trying to see if we'll figure something out. But we probably won't just yell at each other all night. So
Hey, I mean, you never been on one of my panels before, so I appreciate you being here. Just letting you know, most of these my format.
I've been on one before.
Wait, were you?
Yeah,
Is my brain broken?
I was on
Like-
one before. It was right after. It was right after the Dylan's Burns channel. I did Dylan Burns and yours right after.
Oh, I thought you had like a family thing and like had to cancel, or was that?
Oh, I might have.
Yeah.
No, that was definitely it. Okay, this is the first one. My bad.
See, I'm not. See, conservative gaslighting in real time. What is this? Thanks, Sprout, and then Samantha.
I'm a Samantha Banana on Twitter, where I label myself as a Twitch politics producer, whether you like it or not. Don't give a shit. I'm Samantha Banana 85 here on Twitch, where I produce panels for people, or help produce panels such as this one and the infamous all white everything. I am known for stirring up trouble. I'm what you call a post partisan. So I'm neither left nor right, and I will equally slap both of them if they're being like degenerate and stupid. So I like to bring a little dose of fucking well-needed reality to the political sphere, whether people like it or not. Get wrecked.
Thank you, Samantha. All right. So we Maddie still is 6 minutes late now. So accounting for California time, she won't be here for another 9. So hey everyone, I'm Hans, everyone's favorite gigantic lefty himbo streamer. I will be your moderator for the evening. I will not be participating in this conversation, but thank you all so much for being here. I am really excited for this drug policy panel, and I really appreciate all of our panelists bringing their time and their talent and their intelligence to this evening. So without further ado, we are going to go over first the discussion format for people who haven't been on my panels and for the audience to make sure everyone understands. So everyone gets a 1-minute uninterrupted intro and outro for every topic. After that, we will use a hand-raising list system. You will raise your hand. I will give you a signal, which is a thumbs up, that you are on the list. Once you're on the list, we will go down the list, crossing off names as we go. You can raise your hand as often as you would like, but you can only be on the list once, right? So if you're on the list, don't raise it again. You're going to get your time to talk, and then you'll be able to go back on it at any time once you've already spoken. Gish galloping is bad, and it makes conversations impossible to have. So keep your speaking time in each instance after the intros and outros to under 2 minutes. I will give you a signal at 90 seconds. This signal right here, like wrap it up, like time clocky thing.
That's ableist. You're mocking people and saying they're crazy.
I don't care. It's the easiest way for people to see. And then that means you have 30 seconds left. And then when you have 10 seconds left, I'll do it again. And then at 2 minutes, I'll tell you to finish your point. And if you don't finish it, I'll just cut you off. So interruptions. Please don't interrupt someone while they're speaking. It makes conversations impossible to have. Also, don't try and speak when I'm speaking. That's like the one rule. Please don't make me yell. I'm a little tired today. So please don't make me do that. But if you have a specific question or contention for somebody, while I'm throwing it to somebody else after someone has spoken, please just say quick response, jump in, ask your question, maybe have a back and forth, and then we'll continue on with the list. If you have a back and forth with somebody, I'll normally let it like reach its natural end. If it's lasting more than say 5 or 6 minutes or it's starting to become unproductive, I'll pull it back to the list. If someone directly addresses you, calls you out, or asks you a question, you are allowed to immediately respond no matter where your placement on the list is. If Spectre calls out Sprout, it would be really dumb to not let Sprout respond. So that's another rule there. And then as I...
I'm sorry.
And then, as I said, I will only be moderating this conversation, so have no fear, fellow rightoids. I will not be attacking you or using my mod powers to shout over you during this conversation. So, with all that in mind, does everyone understand the rules? All right. So, our first topic, Chuck Schumer is introducing a bill decriminalizing weed at the federal level. Is this a good move? Does it take away authority from the states? Is decriminalizing weed enough? And if not, what else needs to be done? So this isn't specifically just about weed. This can be about weed decriminalization, weed legalization, other drugs legalization, other drugs decriminalization. So if during your intro, if you could please like provide your position on those basic things, just so everyone understands where everyone's at, so no one can straw man anyone else. That would be extremely helpful for the flow of this initial conversation. Each of our topics are normally scheduled to be an hour, so 3 topics, 3 hours. If one topic gets really spicy or people want to keep going, we will normally cut out the third topic, which is normally something that's separate from the first 2 topics. So, with all that in mind, we are going to get started. We have 3 righties and 2 lefties, so we're going to give the righty. Oh, Maddie's here. All right. Oh,
I'm not a righty. Take it back.
Oh, I'm sorry, Samantha. I didn't mean to bully you like this. All right, but anyway, Maddie, thank you so much for joining us. Wait, shit, she can't hear me. One second, everyone. I'm gonna mute myself on the Discord so I can talk to her on the web. Maddie, get in the Discord. Get in the Discord. What are you doing? We can't hear you.
I think that means she's working on it.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so Maddie will be last. All right, move her over here. And never mind. So as I said, oh shit, 1 second. There we go. Now everyone can hear me as well. All right, so now Maddie's here. We'll make Matt. Oh, there she is. There she is. Oh, Maddie, hello. Say something.
Can you mute yourself?
Mute yourself from the Werby before I have.
I am the voice of God. Like
streamer.
Hey.
Hello.
No. Hello.
Maddie, what happened to your third preferred pronoun? Is that still a preferred pronoun I can use? I'm just curious.
Spartacus, always for you. Always.
Okay. All right. I was just curious.
No one else though.
All right, Maddie. Would you like to shout yourself out, introduce yourself really quickly before we get started? Thank you so much for getting here extremely punctually. Really appreciate it. So
you're welcome. Listen, I'm doing my best to fight the stereotype that Californians are flighty and unreliable. So
do a great job.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, I'm Maddie Cakes. I am a political streamer / talking about organizing, activism, economics, current events, just about everything. And I do some games sometimes too. And I'm really excited for this panel because Cons is my favorite himbo in the entire world. So I'm excited.
All right, thank you, Maddie. And then just reiterating the topic really quick for Maddie. And Maddie, have you been on one of my panels before?
I have not, but I've watched them.
Okay, cool. So you know the rules and stuff. All right. But if you could just read it in your spare time, so I don't have to say the entire thing all over again. But for the topic, like I said, Chuck Schumer is introducing a bill decriminalizing weed at the federal level. Is this a good move? Does it take away authority from the states? Is decriminalizing weed enough? Should we move to legalization? And if not, what else should we do? Are there other drugs that should be decriminalized or legalized? So, with all that in mind, we are going to start with Agent 10, then go to Spectre, Sprout, Jolah, Samantha, and then Maddie will have the last word. And then we will go in the opposite order for closing statements because Agent 10 speaks first and everyone gets to respond to him. He gets to go last, so he gets to respond to everybody else. So, with all that in mind, it is time. Agent, 1 minute on the clock, buddy. Go ahead with your opening statement.
Cool. So knock all this down pretty quickly. Chuck Schumer introducing this bill. I need to read the bill. Decriminalizing weed, I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of legalizing it. Making it oh my god, words. Making it legal. I think there's a lot of bad we've done, specifically with weed. I don't see weed on the same level as these other hard drugs, such as like a heroin or like a fentanyl. I feel like it could be used for some good. Tax the ever living fuck out of it. We should expunge the records of people in prison, get the ones who are out, who are in prison out as of right now. Does it take away from authority of states? I mean, yes, but this is for such a minor, in my eyes, problem for certain things that we've seen states legalize it. We've seen some not. I just think it should be federally legal across the board. Decriminalizing weed on itself, I don't think is just enough. I think we should legalize it and then do what I said earlier with, expunging some records. On my views of other drugs, I would not like other hard drugs legal. I'm interested in the idea of decriminalizing it, though, such as Portugal's done with certain things. It's been bouncing around in my head, and I'm working through that. But that's my view on it.
All right, thank you, Agent. Spectre.
Right. Marijuana laws have been basically enforced along racial lines for a very long time. It's a way to keep the prison labor industry full of bodies, basically. We've proven that in states where these are legalized, that suicide rates drop, overdose from opiates drop, alcoholism rates drop. Like legalizing marijuana is just a net good thing. As Agent pointed out, we can tax it for revenue. Does the bill go far enough in decriminalization? No. Like he kind of pointed out, we need to expunge some records. I know that today there are still people in jail in California for marijuana charges, while rich white entrepreneurs are making billions off of the legal weed industry. So that's a bit disgusting. I wish the bill would do something to rectify that situation. Does it take away states' rights? No, as far as I can tell, it does is simply leave the decision in the hands of the states as to whether or not they want to legalize it or not legalize it. Basically, it's just saying that the federal government isn't going to come into states where it is legal anymore and start shutting down dispensaries.
Thank you, Spectre. Sprout?
I think that weed should be legalized. I think that we can get a good tax revenue from weed. I don't see any harmful effects of weed. I see more harmful effects from smoking, more harmful effects from drinking alcohol than you do from weed. I don't see any reason why weed should have been decriminalized to begin with. So with that being said, unless you have a violent drug offense, I think the offense should be wiped off your record. I think that I think the government was doing some funky stuff when they did weed just to go after a couple communities. And so I think it should be decriminalized for everybody federally. Because I know there's certain states like Indiana that are waiting to see what the federal decision on the criminalization of weed is before they decide whether they're not going to legalize it or not. Basically saying the federal has to legalize it for us to be able to legalize it. But other than that, no, I think weed should be legal, and I think we should move forward with this.
Thank you, Sprout. And then just for everyone, I feel like there's going to be a lot of agreement on specifically like weed decriminalization or legalization. So feel free to expand this to other drugs if we all end up saying that like weed legalization
I don't agree.
is fine.
I don't agree with hard drugs being decriminalized.
All right, excellent. Time for spice. All right, Jolah, go ahead, buddy.
So weed initially in the U.S. got heavily stigmatized because minority groups used weed more often. And originally in the 1930s and 1940s, it was Mexican immigrants using it. Then obviously a lot of black people used it in the inner cities. So a lot of this is bullshit culture war stuff that developed over time. There is no actual scientific or medical reason to have weed where it's positioned right now, scheduled with meth and heroin and all of those actual bad drugs. We have a big issue in like Pennsylvania, for example, with a lot of alcoholism from alcohol. Weed, according to almost every study, when it comes to driving with weed, when it comes to heavy use of weed, marijuana, weed is less harmful than even alcohol. And we know the drinking culture that we have in the U.S. Is pretty crazy, and also across the world, of course. And like Sproticus said, cigarettes are also worse than marijuana. And yeah, I think we all are going to pretty much agree with this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jolah. Samantha?
So I am pro decriminalization, but at the same time, I am pro drugs. I'm pro decriminalizing all drugs because that it's literally just the criminalization of them is a net negative on society. made to demonize and put people in a program of imprisonment over and over again rather than getting them help. So decriminalization is a good first step. And then once we get into it, I'll expand on the other things that need to follow. But yes, I think this is a great positive. But I think we need to look at more than just weed. And yet again, I'm pro drug.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. Maddie? Oh, also, then everyone, while Maddie is talking, start raising your hands to be on the list to speak. So, all right, Maddie, go ahead.
I'm committed to the cause of decriminalization when it comes to weed and when it comes to just about any other drug. I'm so committed, in fact, that prior to going on stream, I took half a gummy because why not live my values? And my values are gummies. So I think it's a net positive for society. I think any sort of legalization or decriminalization should coincide with releasing people who are currently serving time in prison for either just drug usage or drug dealing. I think the fact that we criminalize drug use in general it's not aligned with how drug use actually happens. When rather than criminalizing it, we should be taking a rehabilitative approach. Not only do I think it's better from a health standpoint and a safety standpoint to legalize drugs, I also think from the supply side, it's a good thing too. When you legalize drugs, you remove power from the hands of people like cartels who rely on illegal drug trade to be able to mark up their prices and make insane profits. And I'll talk about this in a little bit because I know I want to be on time, but believe it or not, right now, there are people that are marketing cocaine as fair trade cocaine. So this is already something that's happening and it is fascinating. And I heard about it on NPR, but that's my statement. Legalize all of them or decriminalize, whatever.
All right. Thank you, Maddie. So we're going to throw it to Samantha, then Agent, and then Sprout. I see your hand raised as well. So we're going to move into the open discussion. Samantha, go ahead.
So with the decriminalization, what I think we need to look at with that, and like I said, I want this expanded to all drugs, is one, it would free up a lot of the money tied up into the prison system for just people that are using, which using isn't a fucking problem that requires jail time. Using and being an addict is a problem that requires help. And putting people's ass in a fucking prison doesn't help the situation because you're just going to get access to more drugs in prison. So you're not getting any actual help and you're making the situation worse. And then on top of that, you're taking away a lot of people's rights once they get out and serve their time. And so because they fell into addiction, they're just in the, holy shit, bless you, child. They fall into this cycle of not being able to get any upward mobility. When you have like people like Rush Limbaugh and everybody that had money had giant opioid addictions, and here they go, fucking massive radio show, massive platform, massive audience, no fucking pushback, no jail time, no prison, and it's disproportionately targeted towards people of color historically. And drugs are also pushed historically by the American government into communities of people of color to do this. And to push back on Maddie, just so you know, and we're seeing this in California, the weed industry, and it's really weird. And I actually don't care, to be honest, is the cartels. Who gives a fuck? They've stepped up their game and helped a lot of people during COVID, to the point they were getting groceries. Like, no joke, you can fucking look at this. They were keeping people locked down, getting groceries for old people, handing out masks, handing out supplies. When you start legalizing this stuff, the cartels are just going to, as long as they can prove that it was grown and produced to the standards that dispensaries want, the dispensaries will buy from the cartels, which is fucking hilarious. And I don't care. I really don't care, because they're providing a service. And, they're not killing people to do it. They're just making a killing money-wise based.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. We're going to throw it now to Agent.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on the cartel thing a little bit because the black market's always going to be a thing no matter what, really. So no matter if, I would love to tax, weed a fuck ton. So it's going to be a bit expensive. The black market's going to be there. Cartels are still going to gain power. I'm also going to push back on the idea that, the cartels are like this, positive thing. It's like, no, fuck them.
Why do you hate brown people?
As much as I would love to sit here and also defend like Italian mobs, they do some fucked up shit.
Radiophobia doesn't exist.
That's a lie. We can have a debate on that one.
Samantha, please let him finish. and don't bully people with your different like cards like when you're not speaking. All right, go ahead, Agent. Keep going.
Yeah, no, fuck cartels. They're still gonna have power no matter what, even through the black market. So that's just that. It's not a solution to get rid of cartels whatsoever. Yeah.
All right, Samantha, would you like to respond?
Yeah, you're racist. No, no, you're not. You're not. But no. Like the thing is, like, so what makes the cartels illegal is what? Their drug trade. Yes, they got into other things because they were forced into this drug trade position by the United States. Let's be real here. They funded the cartels and let them run rampant. So, but over time, we are seeing that the cartels are taking a more of a community. Like, it's really fucking weird. I'm not saying I like it, but like, hey, it's better than they were doing. During the COVID crisis, along in Mexico and a lot of places, even like my grandma was talking about it. Like, but they took a step up to the point they were being very community focused. So, like, if you literally make the drug trade legal, like make drugs legal in states or whatever, and then now they don't have to run around killing people to fucking make drugs because they can just go sell it legally and not be a problem. So, like, the only thing illegal at that point they do is going to be putting people in like mailboxes in tiny chunks. But other than that, they're going to be doing fine, and it's all legal.
All right, Agent, do you want to respond? One last word before we throw it to Sprout.
Yeah. So of course, like these organized, crime syndicates, of course, have some like, small benefits. Like, granted, like my grandfather probably would have a way rougher time, in New York, especially like certain circumstances if it wasn't for the mob and like the small good things they did and shit like that. But yeah, if we legalize all these drugs, the cartel's not going to come out tomorrow and just be squeaky clean. Like, you're still going to get a lot more people, chopped up into someone else's mailbox.
All
Did they
right.
deserve it is the real question.
Oh, wait. All right. Well, like,
Fair.
thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Agent. We're gonna throw it now to Sprouticus. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so I think that having hard drugs such as drugs like cocaine, amphetamines, stuff like that, I think it's good to have those become illegal. It provides a disencouragement of going to those drugs, which are very addictive, very harmful. It provides disencouragement, so you're not going to be as encouraged to try them. You're not going to be as encouraged to use them. And once you're addicted to them, it doesn't matter if you're encouraged to use them or not. You're addicted. I do think that instead of possibly a jail sentence, then you should be put to a drug rehab program in which you aren't allowed to leave. Similar to jail, but I don't think that they should be in jail completely. I think that they should just be put into a rehab system to where they can be able to process the drugs out of their system and be able to help them not be addicted to that substance anymore. I think that would help a great ton. I think that psychedelics should be decriminalized and legal, such as shrooms. I think all psychedelics should be decriminalized and legal completely. I just wanted to kind of firm up my stance on where I stood completely, since I just kind of left it with no hard drugs. So
I appreciate it. And Sprout, so you said and so amphetamines are if you could like expand like a little bit more like about your position.
like a list of hard drugs.
Yeah, like you don't, it doesn't have to be comprehensive, just like other ones, just for like the purpose of conversation.
Okay, so cocaine, meth, crack, you get the gist of where I'm going with that. So
Okay, thank you.
What about
Okay.
DMT? What about DMT? Would you put that ayahuasca? Like, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm trying to get clarification. Like, where would you put things like when you said psychedelics? Are you just talking about like mushrooms, acid, or sorry, LSD? Or are you pushing into other things such as like DMT and ayahuasca type things as well?
I've actually never heard of DMT before, so I'd have to do a little more research into those drugs before.
Just listen to Joe Rogan. Pick a podcast and you'll learn about DMT. Pick
Okay.
one.
All right, thank you, Sprout, for your clarifications. We're gonna throw it to Spectre, and then right now Spectre is the last one on the list. So if you're interested in getting in on this, please start raising your hands. All right, Spectre, go ahead, buddy.
Right. So I wasn't expecting to get into hard drugs until the second topic, but I guess if we want to touch on that, we can. There is very little evidence that indicates that making these drugs illegal actually lowers the rate of addiction. If you look at Portugal, that had a huge problem with opiates, they simply legalized heroin and put all the money that they were spending on enforcing those laws into treatment. What you saw is, I will concede to you, more people tried it. The recreational use went up. However, the addiction rate was like cut by 90%. Within just a couple of years. So yes, by making these drugs legal, you are going to see more people start to use them recreationally. But what we've discovered in countries that have tried this is that the amount of people who actually end up getting addicted and then inevitably, overdosing at some point goes down dramatically.
Do you have
So I
statistics on
don't think
death tolls? Do you have statistics on death tolls?
on death tolls in Portugal,
Yes.
I can probably find them. Let me see.
I don't know if they went up or down.
You actually read
No,
my
that
line.
went down.
That went
Yeah,
down as well.
Yeah.
that went
Yeah, the
down.
rate of addiction went down, and also the rate of overdose went down.
Okay.
And the reason that they came to this conclusion, right, is because they realized that they had such a huge problem. I think it was like 10% of their population was getting hooked on this stuff. Is they called in experts from all over the world and just said, "What do we do? We've tried like making it a fucking death penalty to like be caught with this stuff. We've tried locking people up in prison for like inordinate amounts of times." And they're like, "No, just legalize everything and put that money back into treatments." And then kind of solve the issues that is creating the addiction problem in the first place. No.
All right, thank you, Spectre. We're gonna throw it to Samantha and then to Jolah.
So
Oh.
sorry. My question is for Jolah. I just want to get a basis real quick, so like don't count this against my time, please.
Okay.
Jolah, are you anti decriminalizing all drugs?
No, I'm not anti decriminalizing all drugs. We would probably disagree on what we think would be like legal though. Like completely.
I'm just talking about like from the decriminalization aspect.
Oh yeah, I agree that resources should 100% be going towards lessening people getting addicted. I think there is a big social stigma around drugs in general. When we talk about like, for example, drugs and alcohol, it's literally like always discussed as drugs and alcohol. We have a big issue with like binge drinking in America and alcoholism in America, but that isn't viewed in the same way as other substances are because it's, you drink it, it's very accessible, it looks like a soda when you do it. So I think we need to look at it, look at everything, how it actually works. So like what Spectre just brought up, these situations where like something like heroin or opioids or whatever are being used at a higher rate, like very scary word. But addiction's going down. Human suffering is going down. Money lost on putting people in prisons is going down. That kind of stuff is a really positive thing in general, but it is going to be really hard to sell it because Americans are going to hear drugs, heroin, all this stuff and really freak out. So.
And then Spectre, I know you're on my side on the decriminalization. Maddie, are you pro decriminalization of everything?
I am.
Okay, so then my question is for Sproutacus and Agent, who are having the degenerate take here. Can just so I know, like, why? What are your reasonings? Like, what do you see as the net negative? Like, what would be so bad about decriminalizing everything? And like, so what would you two? Because I want to hear both of you guys. Like, what are your pros and cons that you run through your head when you're looking at this?
All right, Sprout and Agent. If you have like everything you want to say, like right now, you're welcome to do it. If not, we can throw it to Jolah first while you think about like answering Samantha's question. Then we can bring it back to you immediately after he's done, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead and let Jolah go first.
All right, Jolah, go ahead, buddy.
I just wanted to bring attention to the one thing that happened during the pandemic. I'm sure most of us have seen the numbers with like overall overdose deaths during the pandemic. Many attribute a lot of those to like social conflict happening and depression and all that stuff. But also, a big issue has been with like border closures and everything. People have been getting high with drugs that they are not secure with, that they are not sure of. They don't know what the concentration is. They don't know what's in it. They don't know how much they're taking. So a lot of this, and we're going to get into this in the second topic, but a lot of what's happening right now is because we have a really sporadic system where addicts are going anywhere to get high. So if we decriminalize stuff, maybe they'll be able to search for help more, or not just keep on running into dead ends.
All right, thank you, Jolah. All right, Agent and Sprout, you're both welcome to respond. Whichever one of you wants to go first to Samantha's question, and then we're gonna throw it to Maddie.
It's up to you, Agent. You want me to go first or you?
Yeah, I'll go first. So,
Okay.
the pros, if there's a plan laid out like Portugal to get these people help, I am very open to it, and I would love to read it, and I would probably vote for it myself. The negatives off bat is again, like, granted, Portuguese deaths went down a bunch, and so did the addiction rate, but also usage went up, and Portugal is a very small country compared to the U.S., and I'm not sure I have faith on how well a rollout of a program like that could be. That's my only thing. And as someone who's like, my father was addicted to pills, addicted to opioids, and still is, and it hurt my family dearly and was very abusive and it was a horrible fucking time in my life. I'm very wary when it comes to this shit like this. That's why.
Okay. Thank you, Agent.
So for that same reason, I haven't let this be known publicly on Twitch before. But my two of my cousins died in the past year. One of overdose, and and we're not really sure the second one. That's why I had family issues and I've disappeared from Twitch for the past week. But we're not quite sure the autopsy hasn't come back yet. But I think that if you're in a position like that, when you are overdosing, you are being put to the hospital, you are putting your own life in danger. You are endangering others. I think that, like I said before, I don't think you necessarily need to go to jail. I don't think I don't think jail would do much for you. But I think forced rehab, being forced to go into a rehab facility that is stricter than most rehab facilities, and making sure that you're not addicted when you walk out of there, and trying to keep you on that, such as a probation rehab, to where you come in every so often, get drug tested to make sure that you're not back on it, and otherwise you go back to rehab. Kind of the same thing with jail, but just a rehab
An
version of jail.
involuntary program.
Right? Yes, involuntary. It would not be a voluntary program.
Okay, do you mind if I ask a follow-up question real quick, Hans?
Go for it.
Okay, so Agent, you mentioned with your I believe you said father and pills. So like when it comes to this, like, and this is like one of my stances, I've had a lot of friends who have had issues with pills, almost ODing or having harsh relapses. And I've seen pills, like, my mom, and I've been open about that. My mom has had a massive pill addiction for years, still does. I don't care. I'm just waiting for her to gank. But would you be in support of saying, like, the medical industry not being able to prescribe opioids? Because a lot of people that end up going into things is because their prescriptions lapse and now they're having to get opioids in a different manner. So would you be pro in support of, like, forcing the medical industry to find a non-narcotic way or a non-opioid way to deal with prescriptions?
I would love that, and also fuck doctors who just write out scripts for the hell of it.
All right. Thank you, Agent.
Sprout?
Yes, I would be pro doctors not being forced to not be able to use narcotics on to try and find a different solution, because obviously the solution they found has had harmful effects on their patients. And I think there's much better solutions we can go to. And weed has proven to be a solution for for some of the narcotics that they're using. Weed has proven to be a viable solution for some of these things. So yes, I'd be pro finding different solutions that are healthier for your patients.
Thank you, Hans. I was just trying to get a consistency check.
No problem, Samantha. Thank you for all of your candors, and yeah, I'm sorry for anyone in the panel whose family members struggle or have struggled with that. That's if any of this, like, at any point is like hits too close to home or any of that, you're welcome to like just like bug out for a second. Don't feel like you have to stay here for anyone's benefit. So just keep that in mind. So because this does like affect tons of people.
I would like to point out that the three people who have been vocal about, like, and this isn't like a jab at like demographics here, but notice it's the people that are considered right-leaning whose families all have issues with this.
Yeah, I was addicted to opiates for a good part of 8 years, so I'm not even gonna like.
I wasn't gonna out you, but
No, I mean I'm pretty open about it. I don't really give a shit. Yeah, I don't know. Is it my turn next time, or where are we at?
Right now we have Maddie, who's been waiting very patiently. Then you, then Jolah. I see you, Jolah, as well. So have no fear, buddy. So Maddie, and then Sprout, will put you on the list as well. All right, Maddie, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, Sprout, like, thank you for being candid, and I'm really sorry. I can't even imagine. That's got to be heartbreaking, especially when it's someone you love. I've had now 2 different friends, well, like, friends from college who have passed away from fentanyl overdoses. I take that very seriously. But one of the encouraging things I look at when I look at, for example, what Portugal's done, is that they didn't just decriminalize drugs. And it's not like they legalized things like heroin and cocaine. They simply decriminalized, small amounts, or like if you were just using it. And in addition to that, they also made massive investments on treatment, so that treatment is readily available, it's accessible and affordable and covered by the government for those who need help. And I think that if we were to do anything like mass decriminalization or legalization, it would have to go, well, I said in my opening statement, in tandem with releasing people who are currently serving prison sentences. But also, we need to do a massive investment in treatment, because I wonder for my friends who, I mean, I spent many a Saturday night like sitting around drinking beer, playing beer pong. Like, I only wonder if they had access to help and treatment, if maybe things would have gone differently. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that.
Thank you, Maddie. All right, Spectre into Jolah into Sprout. So Spectre, go ahead.
Right. First of all, Sprouticus, very sorry for your loss. That sucks. Breaks my heart every time I have to hear about it. I guess my issue with like court mandated rehab is that we already do that, and addiction rates are going up, and we already have the data that indicates that mandatory rehabilitation is less effective than voluntary rehabilitation. But I think that we can just intuit that anyway, right? Obviously, if somebody wants the help, they're probably going to be much more successful in one of these programs than if they're just doing it to avoid jail time. So I feel like if this was enough, that we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be at the point where we're having to call this an opiate epidemic. Like, it would actually be solving the problem. The issue is that a lot of people just go in, say the things that they need to say to complete the rehab, go back out, inevitably relapse, and then they're in prison anyway. And then it just becomes a cycle from there. So I wish that it was just something where like we can take addicts and like force them into like care and just like flip a switch in their brains and then make them okay. Unfortunately, it's just not that easy, and I do wish it were, but I don't think that it's enough to deal with the problem.
Sprout, you're welcome to respond, or if you want to wait till after Joel has his point, if you want to think through.
No, I'll respond. This by far, this has been the most agreeable panel I've been on so far. So this is really interesting. It's a different look. But one of my best friends, growing up, they were addicted to all kinds of drugs. They told me they've done every single drug, you name it, they've done it. I continued to be their friend. My church actually dropped them off. They didn't want him inside the church anymore, and I continued to be his friend. And eventually, he hit a point to where he wanted to be done with drugs, and I was the only friend he had left once he got rid of all of his friends that did drugs. So I think it's important for us to look at people who do drugs as human. I think it's a very important aspect of it, because if he didn't have me, he didn't have a friend that didn't do drugs and was willing to be there for him. So I think that Spectre is right when Spectre says that the person needs to be willing to do it. I think that if the court mandates it instead of jail time, that it's going to provide them at least time to become sober. I think it's going to provide a moment of soberness in which they can hopefully realize their bad decisions, hopefully realize the mess they've made of their life, and decide to turn it around. I also don't think this should come with a prison, like a kind of like what prison sentences do. I don't think this should be public record. I don't think employers should be able to realize that you've gone through a court mandated rehab. I think that should kind of be kept behind the books, to kind of make sure that they can reintroduce themselves as a sober person into community. Because once you're on drugs, I truly do believe it becomes a mental illness. It takes over, and it's something that's gonna be really hard to take on once someone is addicted to drugs.
All right, thank you, Sprout. Spectre, I saw your hand. Do you want to respond really quick before we throw it to Jolah, or were you just asking to be on the list in general?
Just go ahead and put me on the list behind Joel. That's fine.
All right, and then Maddie, I saw you as well. So, Jolah, go ahead, buddy.
I think this is a big issue where we need to end the rural-urban divide, because these big pharmacy companies, for example, the Sackler family, so they're the owners of Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family. Their patented drug was Oxycontin. So they dumped it into rural areas, and obviously we had a lot of drugs in cities. We have these things called pill mills. They get taken down in some states. Conservative states lag behind in this function, but we need more strict, like attorney generals, really striking down these pill mills that are still distributing pills at a much too high of a rate. But at the beginning of this entire process, there wasn't, the proper government entity to make sure these companies were not manipulating weak groups of people. Rural and urban areas really disadvantaged. They don't have the proper health care. They don't have the proper economic conditions, the proper social conditions. These are places that are ripe for addiction, diseases of despair, of course. But there was no government agency to say, hey, don't dump all these pills into these areas. These pills are highly addictive. Don't just hand people a pill for every single problem they come into your office with. Like back, if they can make money, if companies can make money, they will do anything to us. They sold us cigarettes, saying cigarettes were recommended by doctors and that they would be healthy for us. So we need a proper function in government to prevent stuff like this happening. Because, although Spartacus said people ruin their own lives, it's not really that simple. Because once you get manipulated into a weak point in life, and then you have these drugs take over your brain physiologically, you don't have a choice anymore. It's not even a result of your own personal decision making. Part of it is, of course, willpower, strength, but there's an entire system that needs to pull you out of there, just like the systems put you in. Oh yeah, sure.
Can I clarify?
And of course, and your next sprout. So just go into that, and then just go into what you were going to say before as well. So.
Okay. Well, I kind of got into what I was going to say before when I was responding to Spectre, but I wanted to clarify something that Jolah was saying about me is that I think when I talk about people ruining their lives, I'm talking about people who are started off with experimenting in these drugs, experimental use, recreational use, and then got addicted. That's what I was saying when they're sober, they can realize they ruined their lives. I think doctors prescribing this stuff and people getting addicted is a sad tragedy. I think doctors should always be looking after the patient and what's best for the patient's health, not what's best for their but what's best for their pockets. And so I think that's something that the medical field has really let down Americans is they've started prescribing this substance that is extremely addictive, and it's going to be addictive after you're done with the need to use it, and you're going to want to go back to using it. You're going to experience withdrawals, and doctors just decided to do this anyways without trying to find a better medication that would be able to do this without having the withdrawals, without having the side effects that this does, that's extremely harmful to your life and to your family.
All right, thank you, Sprout.
Okay,
Jolah,
can I say one more thing really quick?
Yeah, of course. You're welcome to respond, Jolah, and then we're going to throw it to Spectre and then Maddie.
Yeah, definitely when people trust their doctors, the phrase my drug dealer was a doctor is very sad because people are trusting them oh, you gave me these pills. I thought they were supposed to help me. They aren't helping me. They're actually killing me. So one conversation I wanted to ask everybody else with the decriminalization stuff, we've been talking about, and after I know Spectre was going to say something else after me, but we've been talking about how the users of these drugs should be taken care of. But what should happen to people who may be selling these drugs? That's kind of what I want to talk about, a random guy that's selling them or whatever. But
all right, thank you, Jolah. Anyone's welcome to respond to his question, or if you're welcome to think about it and then raise your hand and be put on the list for that. We're going to Spectre, then Maddie, then Agent. So Spectre, go ahead.
Right. To be honest, I'm less concerned about holding individual low-level dealers accountable and more interested in Purdue Pharma not being able to declare bankruptcy and get out of these lawsuits. I just posted an article in chat. These people were referring to the communities where I grew up in Appalachia as fucking pillbillies in their internal emails. They weren't just taking advantage of vulnerable communities, they were laughing and making fun of us while they were doing it. These drugs destroyed my life. They destroyed the communities that I fucking grew up in, and they're just making it a glib joke. So I don't care about the dude living in a trailer who's selling pills due to the fact that there's a pharmacy in West Virginia that's able to has a population of 3,000 people and gets away with writing enough scripts to supply the whole state with a year's supply. That's where I'm at with it, to be honest. The fact that the Sackler family has gotten out of any kind of financial responsibility for this is disgusting. And I am usually very lib left on most issues, but when we start talking about these pharma bros and the people that own these companies, I get off left really fucking quick with what I want to happen to them. So that's where I'm at. Just from personal experience, it's obviously a very like deeply personal issue to me. But I can't be bothered to care about the dude who, like, through economic circumstances feels forced into like selling drugs on the side, when these companies are providing the supply intentionally in order to maximize their profits.
All right, thank you, Spectre. Quickly before we go to Maddie, someone asked in chat. They said blocking people with chronic pain from pain management medication is not a good take, and certain people on the panel are making me mad. So
I agree with that, by the way. I think that opiates are the only solution for some people with chronic pain, and that taking away their ability to have access to it is probably not a great idea.
Okay, but weed has proven to, for some chronic pain, to be able to be a viable substitute to opiates, and it doesn't have the same side effects that opiates do. All I'm saying is that doctors need to pour their heart out in trying to find a reliable substance or a viable substance that can be used instead of opiates that doesn't have these same side effects.
Yeah, we can meet somewhere in the middle, right? We can say that doctors should exhaust every other option available to them before putting somebody on an opiate pain management regimen. But at the same time, for people with like chronic pain who can't like live their lives with just THC and need those opiates, removing their access to them is probably not the way to go about things.
Okay, and I could probably agree with that. At the same time, I would want those opiates to be extremely monitored, to make sure that there's not abuse of those opiates. I'm not saying that people who have chronic knee pain or chronic pain in general abuse opiates. That's definitely not what I'm saying. So please don't take it that way. But what I am saying is there's the possibility that some people do abuse them. So to make sure that these pills are being taken like once a day, every day, if that's what the prescription calls for, to make sure that there's not the abuse of it, to try and eliminate as much side effects or as much addiction as we can to that.
thank you, Sprout, and also just like thank you everyone on the panel so far for this is an extremely vulnerable conversation for a lot of people, and also this has been an extremely cordial and constructive conversation. So I really appreciate everyone treating each other well and with respect on this one. Yeah, absolutely, Samantha. Fucking base build. So just quick question for all of you, right? We have only about 10 minutes left on this topic. Before we go to the next one, would we like to expand this to by maybe say like another 15 or 20 minutes? Because I think this is a really excellent conversation happening right now, and I don't want to cut it short and force everyone to do their closing statements. Is that good? All right.
Extending, yeah.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to throw it to Maddie, then Agent, and then Jolah. So, Maddie, go ahead.
Great. Yeah, so I wanted to raise or bring something to you guys' attention, just as some food for thought, because I know a lot of what we're talking about is pain management. My sister and her brother and my brother-in-law live in Berlin, Germany. And one thing I didn't anticipate when we went to visit her a couple of years ago was how damn near impossible it is to find even something like ibuprofen that you can buy over the counter anywhere in Germany. She actually jokes, like when she comes back to visit in California, she's like, I need to bring back some Tylenol with me because anytime I want a dosage that's like at least 400 milligrams, which is like a normal dose anyone takes from over-the-counter Tylenol, you have to go to their pharmacists are able to issue prescriptions. You literally have to go and like see someone and get a prescription for ibuprofen. We discovered this because my now fiance got a horrible migraine. And I was like running around being like, why don't their drugstores have got painkiller? He doesn't need a vitamin. So it's their approach to pain, dealing with pain is entirely different. My sister had a C-section when she gave birth almost a year ago. And she said that she was only able to get like semi-decent pain medication to deal with coming home afterwards. Like, it's literally a massive operation. But she was only able to get that because she had a C-section. If it was like regular birth, they literally just like give you an ibuprofen. But because of that, they don't have as much opioid addiction. They deal with pain management differently, and it's worth exploring.
Thank you, Maddie. We're gonna throw it to Agent and then Jolah.
Yeah, so Spectre says he goes a bit more left when he deals with these like douchebags in the fucking medical industry.
No, more authoritarian.
Oh, more authoritarian. Okay, yes, my bad. I go more authoritarian, right, and say fuck yeah, death penalty, fire up the wood chipper.
Horseshoe theory. That's what I was implying.
We don't advocate for violence on this channel. In Roblox. Thank you for the clarification, Agent, that I put in your mouth. Continue.
Yeah, so whether it be those people on top who are sending these emails and knowingly doing this to communities, I also have a lot less compassion for drug dealers in general. You are taking advantage of someone's basically mental illness at that point, that they're so reliant on the substance, and the damage it does to people and their families and everything else. I think you're scum just as much of it. I don't think those people should get the death penalty per se, unless it's on a vast, like, very big network, and you have to like link several other things to it. But these people should definitely repent's not the right word. They should definitely like do some time.
All right, thank you, Agent. Spectre, would you like to respond to that briefly before we throw it to Jolah, or are you okay?
Yeah, I would just say that I used to sell opiates as a way to finance my own habit. I think that there are quite a few dealers who are in that situation. I'm not saying that justifies what they're doing or makes it any less disgusting. It definitely didn't make what I was doing any less disgusting. But again, I'm just more interested in holding the people that are sitting back in their cigar-filled like rooms running these companies, just fucking like scheming about how to maximize profits, than I am the dude in the trailer that's just taking advantage of an already fucked situation.
Thank you, Spectre. Thank you, Agent. We're going to throw it to Jolah and then Spartacus. So, Jolah, go ahead.
When it comes to the conversation of alternative treatment, one of the big issues is where most of these like addictions happen. You don't have those resources. Like your family doctor or whatever, the person that's going to be giving you the prescription, their job is to make a really, really, really educated guess. They put down your symptoms on like their computers. They get a list of drugs that is recommended for your illness. Hopefully, they've done their own research on what the newest drug is. And what happened with opioids is all the doctors got recommended, like, oh, give them this pill. This pill will help them. But in like Appalachia and in rural America, urban America, in poor areas in America, you don't even have, I forget what the medication is called that helps treat opioid addictions, but I think like 70% of rural areas don't have this one medication. If anybody knows the name. Well, what is it?
Suboxone.
Suboxone.
And yeah, it's not you're right. There's a lot of problem with access in rural areas.
Yeah, and when it comes to like cannabis treatment, how can you afford that? A medical card and buying that is so much more expensive, and people might not even have insurance. If you're in a red state and you're poor, you're not going to have the same Medicaid access as you will in a blue state. In red states, they just don't care about poor people in rural America and red states. I'm in Pennsylvania. It's a little bit easier here, but it still sucks. The situation still sucks for alcoholism, for heroin, for opioids. It still is terrible here. So there is a lack of access to health insurance in general in America. Good health insurance, if you have it, it probably isn't good. So all of these factors also combine with the societal issues we're facing and economic issues we're facing. We have a lot of systemic structural issues that lead people to these corners where they're going to be caught into a cycle of addiction. And these cycles are going to keep on repeating through generations. If your parents an alcoholic, or if your parents an addict and your parents are poor, you're going to be growing up poor. You're going to be growing up with those mentalities, and you're not going to be able to get help because of where you grew up in life. And maybe 1 out of 5 million people can break out, but those stories shouldn't minimize the overall issue.
All right, thank you, Jolah. We're going to throw it to Sprouticus, and right now Sprout is the last one on the list, so if you want to get in on this, like I said, we have about 10-15 minutes left on this topic before we go to closers and go to the next topic, so if you want in, please start raising your hand so you can get in. All right, Sprouticus, you're up, buddy.
So mine is more going to be a reply to Agent. With this, I think, like I said before, I think once you're addicted, it becomes a mental illness. It takes over certain brain waves and allows, and it makes you think a completely different way. and how you're going to live your life, what's important to you, how important your family is, etc., and so on. That's why I believe addiction is a mental illness, and it's a choice to get into addiction sometimes, but it doesn't remain a choice. Once you're addicted, and you're addicted for life for most times. And so I agree with what Spectre said. That some people deal these drugs as a way to finance their own way of getting their drugs. And it doesn't make it good. Like, it doesn't make it justified to say that you're doing it to get your own drugs. At the same time, it is a mental illness that we need to look at. We need to look at it through the eyes of a mental illness, to not demonize the person, but the act in and of itself. Now, I think that if you're sober and you're deciding to do this, knowing the effects that it has on families, the effects it has on people, I think you're an absolute piece of shit. And that's where I'll leave that statement.
All right, Agent, would you like to briefly respond?
Yeah. So like, obviously, like I have a huge amount of sympathy for anyone hooked on any substance, and you trying to fuel your addiction through any means necessary. I sympathize with it. But there comes a point where, granted, I can't like give a hard line in the sand, like, well, this is the point exactly every single time. But like, it gets to a point eventually where it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I understand you're fighting this horrible fucking addiction, but you are causing so much more. And it's like, I can't sit by and just like, yeah, like, granted, I agree with Spectre 110%. These fuckers in their cigar-filled rooms, top priority on the list. But I don't think we should just stop there.
All right. Thank you, Agent. If no one wants to jump in, we will just move to closing statements, and then we will go on to the next topic, which is also about this. We're probably going to skip the third topic because I think it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the conversation. And I think this is a very excellent, candid conversation on drug use, on the drug epidemic, and I think this is a much better place to have, as opposed to just screaming at each other about censorship and COVID for like the upteenth time on Twitch. So we're going to start with Maddie, and then to Samantha, to Jolah, to Sprout, to Spectre, and then finishing with Agent 10 because he had the first word and he gets the last word. So 1 minute.
I just want to clarify: are you censoring our discussion on censorship regarding COVID?
I'm censoring the censors. I am the next level up. I am too powerful.
That's pretty based.
Who censors the censored? That's right, it's me. So we're gonna start with Maddie. So all right, Maddie, 1 minute on the clock for your closing take on this, and we are going to 1984. Indeed, we're going to go with that. So go ahead, Maddie.
Sure, thank you. So, first of all, to everyone here, thank you for being so candid and open in a discussion like this. It is a subject that, unfortunately, I think in some capacity has touched all of us personally, it sounds like, which should only make it that much more clear just how relevant a subject this is and how massive of an issue it is that we're, especially from the United States political standpoint, like, this is something that needs to be addressed, because it is absolutely an epidemic. And I'm talking more so about like pill addiction and opioids in this case. That being said, decriminalization is clearly the best path forward, not only to reduce our prison populations, turning people into criminals because of low-level drug offenses, but also taking the money maybe that we would spend on those incarcerations and reallocating it towards treatment, towards rehabilitation, and treating drug use as it should be, which is treating it as a health crisis. And yeah, that also fuck Purdue Health, and fuck the family that owns it. I'm okay with jailing them for sure. Let's let everyone else, the low-level law and violent offenders, you can let them out, but the Purdue billionaires who got wealthy off of people dying totally preventable deaths, they can just rot in jail for a while. Also, my gummies kicked in. I'm sorry. I don't know if this has been a minute yet. But I'm going to pause.
That's okay, Maddie. All right, everyone. I didn't want to cut off Maddie because she's doing her best with the gummy. So in the interest of fairness, not cutting anyone else off, we are going to give everyone the same amount of time that Maddie had. So please don't go over this extremely more generous closing time of 1 minute and 40 seconds. So submit. So Samantha, go ahead.
Yeah, I set up the other thing just because, like, I set up most of the topic just because, like, yeah, I got touchy. That doesn't happen very much. But anyway, like, I understand a lot of people's reasoning for not wanting this stuff decriminalized after seeing harm that it's done. I understand a lot of people's misunderstandings about people that use. Because it's really hard to know what we're going through when we're using. However, I just would like to have people kind of like maybe sit back, take a few minutes, and like we were doing here, and hearing each other's experiences, and kind of understand that the people that are using are understanding that, like, prison and stuff isn't going to help, but we need better programs, and we need to not just be like, just using is not something worth losing the rest of your quality of life over. And I think a lot of these stories need to be heard, and a lot of these people need to not be demonized, because you don't know who it is. It could be your mom, like in my case, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your family, your cousins. You don't know. A lot of addicts that are using, you don't know that they're using most of the time. Um, and so take the time and humanize these people. Get to know what they're going through and what would actually help, because the people that are going to know what's going to help them the best are the people that are going through it. So making your prescriptions on what's going to help other people based off of your perceived notions of it isn't always the best case. So it needs to be a balance of, like, hey guys, you're on drugs, and I understand that you might not be thinking clearly, but let me hear you out. Let me offer an opinion, and seek help, not punitive punishment. And decriminalizing is a good start. I want to write, it's a start. It's not a solution.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. All right, Jolah.
Yeah, I want to make sure this discussion is never really had in a moral lens with the people going through addiction. It should always be spoken about with a systemic lens. What issues can we fix in our systems when it comes to access to healthcare, economic circumstances, what areas of the country are decimated from things like trade deals and all that stuff, who's being left behind, and how is that affecting people and making them fall into these divots in life. I want a lot of people to be more aware of what's happening around them. I think a big part of the rural-urban divide that we speak of is people don't understand their own issues a lot in rural America. A lot of times they're scared to admit they need things like therapy, for example, or maybe they need help to kick an addiction. Maybe they have an issue with alcoholism. Maybe their entire family was full of addicts, and they're just simply continuing the cycle. They're gonna keep on being poor and giving up and being addicts. And, it's just how it is. It's just how it is. We can never get out of here. We're dumb people from middle of nowhere. I want that mentality to end. I want people to have more self-worth, because I think all of that will translate to demanding change that will move our entire country and, hopefully people in a better direction.
Thank you, Jolah. Spartacus?
I think that doing drugs, like I said before, is a mental illness. I think we need to address it as such, and to treat these people as human beings. They're mentally ill when you're seeing them. They're not thinking correctly. They're not thinking in the right mind. In their right mind, they're a completely different person. I know this because I've had drug addicts in my family. I've had drug addicts as friends. They're a completely different person when they're sober. And so to apply the drug when they're high to as how they are normally, that's not how they are normally. I think that doctors should exhaust every single option they have before they give someone opiates, just because of the harmful side effects that it has on people. And like I said before, I think those need to be extremely monitored to the extremes, to make sure that they're not being misused. And I'm not suggesting that people who are on opiates for chronic pain are misusing them. I just think that there's the possibility that could become a problem, and I don't think monitoring it would be an issue if it is being used correctly. So I think that it should be extremely monitored if someone is on opiates.
Thank you, Sprout. Spectre?
Right. So I know the original topic was about the decriminalization of weed specifically, but since we're kind of talking about the decriminalization of all drugs, yeah, obviously just decriminalizing it isn't the end-all solution. There are other things that we need to do along with that. But it gets us a lot further than you'd think, simply due to the fact that criminalization simply exacerbates the problem by alienating these people from their communities by making their behavior taboo. It makes it impossible for them to seek help, and we also have evidence that people alienated from their communities are more likely to stay addicted or become addicted in the first place. A really interesting experiment that was done by Bruce K. Alexander back in the 70s called Rat Park. Basically, before he did this experiment, the way that we were able to prove that addiction is caused by like chemical hooks in the brain is they took a rat and they stuck it in a cage by itself. They gave them one water bottle that was laced with cocaine, one water bottle that was just normal water. In the cage in isolation, rats would drink the cocaine-laced water until they died. So what Alexander did is he decided to retry this experiment by taking a bunch of rats and putting them in a cage together that had like nice little hamster tunnels, balls for them to play with. They could have all the sex they want. And what they actually discovered is that while some of the rats would still use the cocaine water recreationally, none of them became addicted. Not a single one overdosed the entire time. So I think that it's important to when we're talking about decriminalization, I understand it's the end all be all solution, but I think it does get us a lot further towards fixing this problem than we always give it credit for.
Okay, thank you, Spectre. And then the last word on this topic, Agent. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so on the way of decriminalizing all drugs, I would love to do a Portugal model. I need to see the plan, and the only thing that keeps me a bit away from it is how it can be put in by the U.S. government. It's not on the idea itself. I like the idea. I just want it done well. That's it. And then if that works, and fine, I would be open to hearing more ideas and hopefully more plans, or maybe even legalization of all drugs later down the line. But yeah.
All right. Thank you, Agent. And thank you all so much for this first topic. Thank you all, everyone who's currently joined us. How do we all feel? Do we need like a brief 3-4 minute break before we hit the next topic? Or are we all good to go? Some of you are muted. I didn't hear anybody.
I would like to get some water.
All right. Let's take a quick. Let's take a 4 or 5 minute break, and so everyone meet back here at 9:15. All right. I'm going to go get
6:15. Okay.
Yeah. And Maddie, don't be late. All right. I'm gonna go pour myself a drink as well. And I will be back. Everyone, I'm leaving you all.
Now that he's gone, let's all say mean things about Hans.
Please, no gamer words. Please, no horrible things about me.
Hans looking all fucking good and stuff, looking all like fucking stacked.
I'm fucking huge. Do you see it? Did you see my lift today? I hit 455 for a triple. I am to the fucking moon. I got one more day of like prep deadlifts, and then like 2 sessions from now, I'm fucking smashing 500. I'm gonna see if I can go above it. Like, let's fucking go. It's gonna be.
Are you really deadlifting if you're not peeing all over the floor?
Oh, I almost shit myself today. So yeah, it was I almost went for a fourth one, but like I felt
things people don't understand
no.
about powerlifting and compound lifts. Like when you're really putting effort into it, you're either gonna piss all over the floor or shit yourself. It's one or the other.
Well, that's why I always Sorry, go ahead.
And it's like it's so normal. It's normalized too, to the point like someone will be on the floor, and there's always that guy with the rag. Like, yeah, okay, next. Who's next?
Yeah, it's like
there's in long distance running too. I used to be roommates with a girl who was like a competitive marathon runner, and because of their like the certain diets that they have to have when they're like training, she's like, oh, any serious runner has absolutely shit themselves at least once. Running like they're
while running
happens while running. What? Like it's 100% happened.
it's extra propulsion. What are you talking about? Like it makes you it's like a rocket ship, makes you go fast. But yeah, oh my god, it's just people
You're
like
not an elite athlete until you poop your pants, is what
Yeah,
we're
like,
trying to say.
it's about winning. Okay, it's about pushing yourself to your.
Gotta poop your pants.
That's why like I don't really use pre-workout anymore. But I always like drink coffee before like a heavy lift session, just like because I get the shits whenever I do coffee. So it's like just like to force it out of myself before I go to the gym.
If we decriminalize drugs, we don't have to do pre-workout. We can just fucking rail a line of coke.
Oh my god.
True.
Cellucor that makes like C4, the pre-workout stuff that gets you all jittery. They used to be my account because they were a sponsor of Tough Mudder when I worked there. And I just remember like that's the only times I'm a caffeine fiend. C4 is the only time where like when we had it in the office, I remember trying it the first few times and I was so jittery. It's the only time where I've been like, this is too dangerous for me.
Yeah, like
work for Tough Mudder. I need to send you. Remind me to send you a picture, Maddie. The last Tough Mudder that I did, I finished and just my face was covered in blood because I tripped at the wall and my face just went like flat into the wall and I broke my nose and so there was just like blood all over my face and my shirt and I still finished.
No.
It was fucking hilarious.
So no, I was there 2015 to 2016.
Well, people who don't play sports, they're always curious on like how people who play sports that take a long time, how they do it without using the restroom, and you have to typically tell them, well, they typically use the restroom while they're doing it.
While
it's
they're
just
doing
not
it.
Publicized.
It's a funny thing. Like back in France, where cycling's big. They're just like they're not on food where they're gonna shit. If they shit, that just happens, right? They try to make it a point not to eat anything where they would do that. But like they're like, just watch an actual like fucking long distance like cycling event, and you're just gonna see fucking drips. And it's like that's totally piss. Like you're drinking water constantly while you're doing like these long distance cycling things. They're like just the air, the wind will dry you off. Like there were people that were talking about triathlons. Like you want to know when to go to the bathroom? When we're swimming. That's like main place. Just while you're swimming, get it all out there because you are going to be washed off by the time you're out. And I'm just going, well, that's genius right there.
I never thought I'd have a reason to like watch the Tour de France or any like long like cycling event because it's like cycling. I could just watch people like do like really intense soul cycle class. But now I have a reason to watch. I'm gonna look for the drips along the way.
Jesus. All right. All I heard was I want to see the drips along the way, and I assumed they were still talking about shitting. So we're gonna go right past
the people that just pee while doing like the Tour de France or like triathlons or something. Like the wind's gonna get it out. Like you can just pee while you're cycling, whatever.
Oh, okay. All right. So. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the halftime show about pissing and shitting all over yourself when you try too hard in sports, because that's what fucking winners do. Let's move back to drugs, which also is in the Tour de France. So our second and last topic of the evening, because we're going to avoid the COVID censorship shitstorm. So we talked about decriminalizing. We're going to talk now about another policy that's been tried in different countries around the world and is currently being proposed and attempted in Vancouver, Canada, as the first place in North America. So, Vancouver, Canada, is introducing a, quote, safe supply program where they hand out free drugs, including hard drugs, to addicts to reduce the amount of overdose deaths caused by adulterants like fentanyl and benzodiazepines. Is this a good practice, and should this be expanded to other cities, not just in Canada, but across the continent and the world? So we are going to start this one with, let's move people around a little bit to make it a bit more different order than last time. We're going to start this time with Spectre, then go Samantha, then Jolah, then Agent, then Maddie, and then Sprout. And then we're going to end in the opposite direction. So, Spectre, you get the first and the last word on this. So 1 minute on the clock, buddy. Go ahead.
Right, I'll try and get through this in a minute. Yeah.
And if you can't, we'll just like time everyone up to you. So you set the stage because you're the first speaker.
Right on. So in 2017, the cost of fatal opioid overdoses, or the total economic cost nationwide, was estimated to be at $550 billion for the year. Overdoses have gone up considerably since then. It's much likely more high now. So it's already a problem that is costing us money. So we can just spend that money getting these people safer drugs to use, and that should drop the overdose rate. Now, the reason that I say that is because if we go back and we look at the amount of overdoses back in 2010, before fentanyl was big on the black market as something to mix the heroin with, the number was at 3,036 a year. We are now up to 14,019 overdoses a year since 2019. And then, if you also look at figure 5 in the data that I'm about to put in chat, you can clearly see that the rate of overdose with heroin that's mixed with adulterants, such as fentanyl, is going up, whereas the overdose rate for heroin that does not have adulterants is going down. If our goal is to actually reduce the amount of loss of life that is suffered by these addicts, I think that providing them with a clean, safer alternative is a good place to start. We're working on fixing the addiction issue that has become an epidemic in our society.
All right. Thank you, Spectre. And as I said, Spectre went for 80 seconds, so we're going to extend that time to everybody else as well for the sake of fairness. So, Samantha, 80 seconds on the clock. Go ahead.
I agree with what they're doing there, but like comparing that to how we can do it here is like we'd have to be on the same base as like if we were to expand that program, which I do support, but Canada has things that like we don't, like a socialized healthcare system, and more support systems and help, rather than just here you're gonna give people these things and they're still gonna just end up in fucking jail. So you need to look at other fucking programs. Like I would like to see it expanded, but as the way the medical system and the drug laws and how people act here, it's not going to work here as we are configured right now.
Thank you, Samantha. And then just a additional prod for the rest of the panel. If you don't agree with it being present currently, if you have things that you would want in place to make it okay that you think would be a good thing, maybe start thinking about that for the general conversation. So we're gonna throw it now to Jolah. Go ahead, buddy.
So right now where I'm from, which is rural America, basically, we have people overdosing, and when they overdose, somebody sees them, overdosing in public, and they call 911. So a responder, emergency responders show up, and they use Narcan to revive people before they're fully, before they die. This costs a lot of money. So although we may say on the front end, like, oh, this is going to cost so much to have these community centers, that's not true. It costs a lot more money, and social dismay too. To have the idea that these are people that are like social outsider zombies, and in reality, they are not social outsider zombies. They are sick people who need help. So overall, I think this being introduced in more areas would be a good thing. And like I said, people are already going to be overdosing if they can't get access to a system like this. And with the pandemic, because of issues at our borders, people were unable to get their usual supplies from their dealers. So they did some experimenting, and that's one of the reasons the overall overdose rate went up during the pandemic.
All right.
Or the deaths went up.
Thank you, Jolah. Agent?
Yeah, so the theory of, if someone's really addicted to this horrible thing, give them something less horrible to wean them off, and then slowly keep going down the list till they're fine. Totally agree with. We just gotta be super careful how it's done, and I can never see this be done right now on a federal level in our country. It's no way in fuck's gonna happen. Maybe a statewide, I would be down for it, and even if like that might probably not get through in a lot of states, maybe even down to a county. But I definitely don't see this ever getting done federally, especially like now or like anytime soon. But I would be open to the idea. I'm just a bit hesitant.
All right. Thank you, Agent. Maddie?
This is a really interesting case in terms of policy. I think most of us have heard of needle exchanges where people are able to exchange their used needles for like clean, safe ones so that they're not reusing. That was a massive vehicle for the transmission of bloodborne diseases like hepatitis and AIDS. But the notion that I'm admittedly like a little on the fence about the government providing drugs to people. and maybe it's just my own hang up, but I think there were a couple of people, Agent spoke to this, I think Joel spoke to this, but rather than giving drugs, like at least giving things that are helping them to reduce their dependence on the drugs and their addiction. That I would support to help them wean off of drugs, but I struggle with just the government providing free drugs, even though the drugs are safer. But I do wonder if it is a system that would be abused. But I'm interested to hear what other people have to say.
All right, thank you, Maddie. All right, Sprout, last opening statement on this, 80 seconds on the clock. Spectre, I already saw your hand earlier. You were jumping at that. Samantha, I see you as well. Anyone else who wants to get in, just start raising your hand while Sprout is talking. So Sprout, go ahead, buddy.
I'm kind of torn on this topic. Part of me says that drug users getting clean drugs would be better because they'd be knowing that it was clean. And part of me is saying that why give drugs to drug addicts when they should be getting help. So I'm really torn on this topic in between those two. And I'm going to be interested in what everyone else has to say. But at the same time, I don't think I would ever advocate for just giving drug addicts drugs. Honestly, I don't know. It's a tricky topic, and this isn't probably much of an intro. But I'm torn between the two sides, and I guess that's just where I stand.
Thank you, Sprout, and I hope we can get into those divergent opinions and the hangups you have on either side of that during this conversation. So, with all that in mind, we're going to move to the general conversation for this. So we have Spectre and then Samantha. Anyone else wants to get in? Start putting those hands up. So, all right, Spectre, go ahead, buddy.
Right, so I understand that it sounds counterintuitive to just give drug addicts drugs to make them safer. But the thing is that fentanyl is a fucking menace. I speak from experience as somebody who relapsed during the pandemic. You cannot find heroin that does not have this stuff in it. And it's actually 100 times stronger per volume than heroin itself. This is not being mixed in by professional chemists who understand what they're doing. So this can just be somebody who's like been doing the same amount every day for a year and they get one bad batch, boom, fucking dead. There's a reason that if you look at the data that I had posted during my opening statement, that the overdose rate is going up pretty much in line with the amount of people who are overdosing on heroin with adulterants in it. If our goal is to make like less people die of overdosing, then providing them with the clean heroin or diamorphine, whatever the medical term is, it's actually like cleaner than street heroin, is probably the best way to go about it. Now, I'm all for policies that are going to also provide them access to things like Suboxone to help them wean off of the drugs, but that's not even the goal. The goal here is simply harm reduction. We get people cleaner stuff that they actually know what they're taking, and it reduces the risk of accidental overdose as a result.
All right, thank you, Spectre, Sprout, and Jolah. See you both. Samantha into Sprout into Jolah.
Okay, so sorry, I was distracted earlier in my thing, but like where I was saying where our system isn't like set to handle this right now, because usually when you get picked up in Narcan, right, if police are the one Narcanning you, you're probably gonna get caught for an intoxication in public. Just like an FYI, how it is now. That can happen, and it does happen a lot in places like Oklahoma, for damn sure, and probably a lot rest of the rural South. I'm only speaking for Oklahoma out of experience. But like these things are good. What Spectre said about Suboxone, very good point. And getting them like cleaner things, right? Because once you get stuff with adulterants in it, you're gonna have a higher rate of overdose because they can take the same amount, but the other shit that's in it is what's gonna be like, it's gonna be more detrimental because they're thinking they're taking the same thing that they usually take in the same amount. And congratulations, there's a bunch of bullshit in it. That's gonna cause some fucking problems. It's kind of like doing DIY hormone therapy sometimes. And that was my jab at that. But giving people access to clean, and this is where I'm going to derail for a second into legalization, where you could have oversight on the cleanliness or the purity or and I mean like now in places like California, if I have drugs, I can go to a certain place, they will test it for me and tell me if it's clean. Nothing goes to police or whatever. And it's just a safety thing. But if we do end up going the legalization route, you're going to have people that are going to have less overdose just because of the fact that they're going to be having access to more clean and pure drugs that are going to be less likely to kill themselves on a normal dose than say a bunch of stuff that's been mixed or adulterated with a bunch of other shit.
Right, just small pushback if I could just jump in here. The whole thing about like, well, they're gonna get picked up and Narcan and then put in jail, that happens more when they're not getting clean drugs because people overdose more when they're not getting
Yeah, I agree. I 100%
This would actually
agree.
reduce that issue, not exacerbate it.
Oh, with the centers. Yeah, never mind. I'm completely fucking wrong on that. Yeah, I'm still under the whole like I fucking hate cops that Narcan people. They're doing a good thing and then turning it into a horrible thing by taking them to jail afterwards.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Spectre. We're gonna throw it to Sprout, then Jolah, and then Maddie. I see you. So Sprout, go ahead.
So something that's been told by my best friend that was a drug addict that I told you guys about earlier. He told me that you're not ready to quit until you fully understand that you just about killed yourself. And it took an OD it took an OD and for him dying and being brought back by emergency medical technicians to for him to understand that he needed to quit. And unfortunately that is the reality of drug users is oftentimes they're going to need to overdose. They're going to need to almost die for them to realize that they need to quit and that this is not a way for their future. At the same time, I think that if we give them clean drugs, that they need to be. I don't see how we can give them clean drugs and not decide to put them in rehab. Not decide to try to give them help. They're coming to somebody for drugs. That they need help, whether they want it or not. It's what they need. Um, and I understand that if you don't want help, you may just say what you need to say to get out of rehab. But at the same time, I think that getting that help and getting sober will give them a clearer mind to understand what's going on. But at the same time, like Spectre said, there's contaminated drugs. There's bad batches where people would not intentionally overdose, but they'll overdose and then just be gone. So that that's where for me it kind of cuts into it that well, okay, so it's not good enough. My solution isn't good enough, and I just don't know how I don't know how to make my solution better. um I don't know. I think that if someone's coming to the government for drugs, then they need to be put in rehab. I don't really see another option besides being put in rehab if they're going to come to the government for drugs.
Thank you, Sprout. And then, Samantha and Spectre are already on it, but for Boyji, they said something horrible about Sprout in chat right now about how he wants drug addicts to die. That is obviously untrue. Sprout has been extremely cordial and candid and compassionate on the panel tonight. And I would really recommend you never fucking say that in my chat again unless you want to be banned. So we're now going to throw it to Jolah, and then Maddie, and then Spectre. So, Jolah, go ahead, buddy.
So when it comes to Samantha's point about the cops, I'm pretty sure you live in one of the I think it's like 9 or 10 states that doesn't have Good Samaritan laws for drug overdoses. So like if you call the cops, you either need medical assistance for an overdose or you are with somebody who is overdosing. In Pennsylvania, for example, you're going to be immune from getting arrested in 99% of the cases in which that happens when like Narcan is used. When it comes to the policy discussion of how we can make like what's happening in Vancouver tried in the states, we would basically say like, oh, we're spending this much money from the state and county budget because that's how it's done for the overdose response teams or whatever. It's out of county and state budgets. How much money are we spending here? How much money would we have to spend on the community centers? We can kind of crunch the numbers when it comes to the actual policy. And I haven't reviewed what Vancouver has done when it comes to the numbers, but that's what the discussion would be.
All right, thank you, Jolah. Maddie, and then into Spectre.
Look at the state of our country right now. I don't know if it's realistic to think that this is something that could work in our country just as things stand right now. What I think is more realistic and what I think would still drive us towards that desired outcome of eliminating or like significantly reducing drug addiction and drug-related deaths. I think some sort of policies that was similarly to I think what Samantha had talked about, where a safe testing site where you could test drugs to ensure that they're not laced with something, because I know, at least in the case of the people I know who've passed away from opioid addiction, in both cases it was fentanyl because they had started using heroin and it was laced. But I could see something like that, and also some sort of like amnesty policy. So like if you end up in the hospital, if you go to get drugs tested or whatever, like I would hope that like because you're seeking help, it's then not criminalized. Because just thinking about how drugs are viewed in general by law enforcement in other states, obviously California is pretty liberal about it, but I just worry that like they would use things like safe injection sites just as opportunities to arrest more people and target vulnerable people.
All right. Thank you, Maddie. I want to throw it to Spectre now, and Spectre's the last one on the list, so if you want to get in, start raising your hands. All right, see you, Sprout. Spectre, go ahead.
Right. So, I mean, I'd be all for providing these people with the option to seek rehab that would be state funded while they're coming to get the free drugs. But that, again, this doesn't change the fact that these people have access to heroin that is dangerous because it's laced with fentanyl, whether they want them to or not. I can have half a gram shipped to me for $40 overnight anywhere in the fucking country. Like, it's already there. This isn't going to cause them to have like more access to these dangerous drugs. It's just going to, one, give them more time to improve the parts of their lives that may be contributing to the addiction, due to the fact that like most of a drug addict's existence is spent acquiring or using drugs. This, frees them up quite a bit of time there. And it also, again, makes this less of a taboo thing that they're engaging in. And it's just safer overall. Like, again, before fentanyl was being mixed in with this stuff back in 2010, we were looking at 3,000 overdose deaths a year. We're up to 14,000 as of 2019. That's not even including the pandemic numbers. So we're at a point where we can't really be focusing on these individual prescriptions for individuals of like, well, we just need to get them help. We just need to get them into rehab. Like, we don't have a society where people have addiction problems. We as a society have an addiction problems, which means that we as a society have to restructure the way that we think about these things and also the way that we legislate around these things.
Thank you, Spectre. We're going to throw it to Sprout, but also quickly before we do that, someone in chat said, if Sprout, if you're listening, and this is for the entire panel as well, this is like as a general probing question. There are plenty of prescription drugs that